Have you ever been in the middle of a role-playing game and felt more like a spectator than the hero of your own story? Well, today, we're digging into a system that just completely tosses that idea out the window. It's all about giving the keys to the players and rethinking the whole concept of a skill check. And this quote right here from the source material, it just nails the core problem. It talks about how games can get bogged down in linear simulations, which, is a fancy way of saying the action stalls and forces you into being a passive spectator. If you've ever played, you know exactly what this feels like. That moment where the story grinds to a halt and you're all just waiting.
The material actually has a name for this, the spectator's crisis, and it's all about that stop-and-go gameplay we've all experienced. You know the deal, where the story can't move forward until you get permission from the referee for every single thing you want to do.
What happens is, this creates a kind of narrative bottleneck. Everything has to pass through the game master. The source calls the result cognitive fatigue, and that's just the perfect term for it. It's that mental drain you feel when the constant stopping and starting just yanks you right out of the story.
So what's the fix? Well, this system introduces a really cool concept called directorial agency. And it's not just a new rule, it's a whole philosophical shift. The goal is to take you out of the audience and put you squarely in the director's chair.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at the contrast. The old way, waiting for permission, passive. But the new way, it completely reframes your role. You get directorial agency. You operate within story physics, which means your actions have real, immediate consequences. You get to be a narrative architect. I mean, how cool is that? You're literally building the story.
And here is the absolute game changer. Instead of asking, hey, can I try to do this? You declare, okay, here's how I'm doing this. You are empowered to come up with your own solution, make the check, and then you get to tell the table how your character succeeds or fails. You are driving the story forward.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does it actually work at the table? How do you build one of these solutions? Well, it all revolves around the difficulty check, or the DC. Now, the DC is set on a super logical 1 to 100 scale. But here's the clever part. Instead of just random numbers, it uses something called a geometric ladder that goes up in multiples of 11. So an easy task is DC 11. A focused one is 22. A hard one is 33. You get the idea. This creates this really predictable and consistent framework, so everyone just intuitively gets what the stakes are.
And making the check is this elegant, player-driven, three-step process. First, you declare your solution. You get to creatively combine two of your character's stats. Second, you roll the dice. And third, you announce your total and you narrate what happens. See? The power to start and finish the action is all in your hands.
So what are these combinations? Well, the first option is to blend any two of your core ability scores. And this is just brilliant. You're not just using strength to be strong, you're combining your strength modifier and your charisma modifier to, say, rip a phone book in half to intimidate a guard. It just forces you to think way outside the box.
Your second option, you can combine two of your character's trained skills. This is for everyone who loves to specialize their character. If you're an expert in both Arcana and Religion, you can add both of those proficiency bonuses to your roll to tackle a really specific problem, like trying to figure out the magical writing on some ancient holy relic.
And the third option is the one we're probably all most familiar with, combining a raw ability score with a practice skill. It's the classic combo, but here it's just one of three really powerful tools. The source gives this amazing example of a rogue using their dexterity modifier and their Arcana proficiency to listen for the tiny clicks of magical tumblers inside a lock.
All right, but what about those challenges that are just way too big for any single hero? Well, this is where the system scales up in a really beautiful way with heroic teamwork.
So imagine you and your party are facing a challenge with a difficulty check of 66. On your own, hitting that with a single D20 roll is, pretty much impossible. This is what's called a teamwork threshold. It's a task that absolutely demands that you work together.
And here's how it works. It's awesome. Instead of one person trying to beat that number, the party pools their checks. So as you can see here, maybe the fighter uses their athletics to hold the giant gears in place and rolls a 24. Then the rogue uses their Arcana skill to track the magical energy, getting a 28. And finally, the wizard analyzes the patterns and adds a 22. You add it all up, and their total is 74. They absolutely crushed that DC 66.
And that's the whole point, right? The system itself is built to mechanically encourage and reward cooperation. As more players contribute their unique skills, even those legendary heroic DCs, we're talking 88, 99, they actually become achievable. Every single member of the party is essential for pulling off those truly cinematic, world-changing moments.
So this all leads to a really fascinating final point. It turns out that all these features that empower players and boost immersion also create an engine that is perfectly suited for the future of gaming: AI collaboration.
So why is this design so smart? Well, it boosts immersion by letting you declare your own actions. It gives you true player agency as a narrative architect. But here's the kicker. That same consistent logic, the 1 to 100 scale, the clear combinations, that creates a rule set that an AI can understand perfectly. The very thing that makes the system so intuitive for humans makes it completely legible for machines.
It's a design that solves for the human experience right at the table, while at the same time, it's building a bridge to the future. And it leaves us with a really compelling question. By creating rules that are more intuitive and fun for people, have we accidentally created the perfect language for humans and AI to tell stories together?